Good morning.
Good morning. How are
It's been
you?
a few weeks since we recorded an episode, so
I know. I feel like I gotta remember how to do this.
same. Listen, the one thing I enjoy about this podcast is that it doesn't feel like work, though.
Yeah,
So,
that's good.
um,
Yeah. We don't want to add extra work to
yeah,
already busy lives, you know? I
correct.
feel like I can't hear myself through these
Yeah,
headphones right now.
I can't hear myself either, but that's where we are just going to
Okay.
have to trust that what we're saying is coming across.
If I sound weird, is it me? Is it.
You sound fine to me,
Oh,
honestly.
I just turned up the volume, not the gain, the
Got it.
volume. Okay, I just saw
Perfect.
that
Yeah,
look
you
on
can
your
crank up.
face.
I was
That
like,
look of
don't
annoyance.
touch the settings.
I literally am not that dumb. I'm a.
I got this new stool. Hold on, I have to tell you this. I got this new stool,
Mm-hmm.
and it has like rollerblade wheels on it.
Yeah.
And it's like, how do I not fuck around with it the whole time? Like, I might have to switch back to a chair because
She's
like,
gonna be spitting in a
I get
circle.
dizzy for watching this.
Yeah. Well, I have just a dining room chair. Like,
That's what
so
I had in here for the
I'm
longest
just
time, so I got this stool.
leaning back and forth. Yeah. I
This
do need
might
to get a better office chair for this. I mean, just in general, but definitely for this space. We're fixing our lighting over there.
it's really bothering me. It's like in my eyes. How's
Yeah,
that? Oh,
that's
that's
good. Yeah,
better. Okay.
yeah. I don't see
Oh, I
a
was like,
bright
there's
circle in your
no
eyes.
way I'm gonna last an hour with that. Okay.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
All right.
So
Now that
I'm a
we have
little
our shit
tired.
together.
I traveled to back home to California for a week, and there's a 2-hour time difference, and so that by the time I ended the week there, I was adjusted to that time schedule. And then I came back to Texas and then had to readjust. So I feel like I'm still lacking sleep because I had a normal week when I got back home. So I still feel pretty tired this week.
I love when you travel to my time zone because I
Yeah.
feel I feel like I mean our schedules kind of work out now. It's a little
Yeah.
different um because of the my school schedule, but it's
Yeah.
like perfect timing for me to call you when I get done with school and you're like driving home from work so we can typically like share our
Yeah.
drive homes together. But I feel like you've been getting home really early lately. Have you been not taking as
Yeah.
many clients in the afternoon?
Well, so yes, over the last couple weeks, that has definitely been the case. I've been leaving about an hour early because the kids went back to school, and so we had all of these. John and I basically had to tag team, one kid going here and one kid going here, and then we had all these doctor's appointments, like eyeglasses appointment, just all the things for the kids. So it was like I would have to leave work and then drive straight to the school or drive straight to pick up the kids and then go to wherever they had to go, and then yeah, so it's just been super busy. And then we had a crazy hailstorm like a month ago or 2 months ago, and we had to get a whole new roof, and we had to schedule all of the contractors to come out and do, paint the trim of the house and do the new roof, and then that leads into a whole bunch of other projects like, well, since we're doing that, we might as well do this, and it was just a lot. So I'm still tired.
Seems
Just
like a
tired.
lot. And then you're coming here. What's the countdown? I
I
have a
am.
countdown app. Countdown app. Days until 17 days. You're
Yay.
going to be
Yep.
here.
I know. We could record an episode in person.
We're
That
going to
would be
have to
fun.
because you're
I
going to
mean,
be
it
here
has to
over
be
a
done.
Sunday.
Maybe
So
we could try to find a way to do it I don't know if we can. Might be hard. I was going to say it'd be kind of cool to do it outside, where
Yeah,
there's pretty mountains in the background, but I don't know if that's hard
we
with
can.
like
Hey, I'll make
wind
anything
and
happen.
all the
I
things.
got
But it's
this.
so pretty out there. So it'd be kind of fun. So yeah, school year started and just getting back in the swing of things. So how have you been over the last week and a half, 2 weeks since we've talked? Our listeners haven't heard from either one of us. So what have you been doing?
they probably enjoyed a break. I just been going to school, so everything's going really well. We started clinics, and I'm really enjoying getting to learn more about the human body and how awesome it is. I actually spent probably 4 hours yesterday and an hour this morning looking into physical therapy assistant schools, because I was like,
Nice.
how cool would it be like to just continue that path of like healing the body. So
Yeah.
I'm really enjoying kind of the anatomy and physiology, how like range of motion. We learned about MET, which is the muscle energy technique, which is where you have your clients do a series of like contract and release movements while you're producing the massage. It can help with like a more of a deep tissue because the whole muscle is activating under that pressure, which is really cool. Not deep tissue as in like painful. There's a difference between deep tissue and heavy pressure. So that's kind of cool. But yeah, it's just been really fun.
Nice. Good. That's awesome. Well, what are we going to talk about? What do you want to talk
Well,
about
I liked that you
today?
started out today with mentioning that you were back home. Because I
Yeah.
think something that our listener would really enjoy is getting to know a little bit more about both of us. And I thought it would be
Mm-hmm.
really cool for you to kind of just tell us your story. Where did you come from? What kind of things in life happened to either inspire you or push you into the direction that you've come? Um, just how did April become April?
Yeah. It's kind of funny. I am recently, so there is a podcast called Psychiatry and Psychotherapy Podcast that you and I both listen to and enjoy. And I am participating in a cohort of other mental health professionals for the next 9 months, doing all things psychodynamic therapy and just building that skill with Dr. Pewter, who was the host of that podcast. And so I got to meet with them for the first time on Friday, and it was really just kind of an introduction thing, kind of going through what the requirements are going to be. There aren't like crazy requirements, but just kind of what to expect, and then the introductions, kind of like, who are you? Why do you want to do this? And so that was really cool to get to hear about everybody and learn about why they're interested in psychodynamic therapy. But the one thing I thought about was like, man, these people could like Google my name, listen to this podcast, find out all this information about me. And how much information do I want them to know about me? And then that actually made me think about uh, social media in general. Like, social media is obviously like a curated thing. We don't put our whole lives out there. We just put what we're comfortable sharing. And for me, in a lot of ways, I use social media as just to share ideas that I think are interesting, or things that I think are really funny, or even things that I don't really know how I feel about it, but it's made me pause and think about something. So I'll like share those things. But people equate what you post on social media as an identity marker, or as, if you're posting this, you agree with this, or they're very like black and white with it. And you and I have talked
Yeah.
about this before, about how we can't control how people receive the information that we put out into the world. But I've done another podcast with a friend, and he invited me to go and talk about my life a little bit. And so I had an interesting experience happen where I had a patient come in, and they knew
Remember.
stuff about me. They were like, they knew stuff about me before I had met them. And it was because they had searched my name and listened to that episode. And so yeah, I find myself going back and forth between, now this is rare. I don't think you and I have the goal of like going viral or becoming, super anything, where we're going to have so much attention on us that it's going to be a problem. But if people Google me, then they probably will find some of this information. So I always have a hard time like knowing like how much do I want to share? How does that impact? So I'm actually really curious, and I will talk about myself, but I actually am really curious, like, how would you feel about your mental health professional having uh, um, a social media presence or having information about them, themselves, like if their personality is like on the internet that you're able to read and get access to, like as a patient, how does that feel for you, or how would that feel for you?
So I think it's going to be two things that would really kind of drive my opinion of that. One is, what type of content are they posting? Are they coming in
Hmm.
and talking about their clients, right? I mean, obviously there's HIPAA,
Right.
so we're not going to mention names or anything like that. Like,
Yeah.
but are you sitting here discussing people that you're treating
Right.
behind their back, right?
Hmm.
And if you're
Should
not
be
doing that,
highly
then yeah,
unethical.
like I am not
Yeah.
not here for that.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
your
100%.
patient's gossip podcast.
Yeah.
But I personally, I think we've talked about this before. Um,
Hmm.
Establishing relationships is
Hmm.
one of my goals. And I think that through my own experience with therapy, right? You start with your therapist and you're like,
Hmm.
okay, they're on this pedestal and I have to, they're perfect and they have all the answers. And so there's kind of a power dynamic there, or a feeling
Hmm.
of a power dynamic. And I know for me, the longer I was in therapy, the more personable my therapist became to me. And the
Yeah.
easier it was for me to kind of open up and share things, because I felt like we had kind of more leveled that platform, right?
Hmm.
He is a human. He's going to understand me. He's not, echelons above me. He can tell me about his own struggles, which kind of humanize him in a way. And so for me personally, I think there is definitely a line of what types
Hmm.
of information should be put out, but being able to, again, be authentic with who we
Yeah.
are and how our authentic selves are going to bring the clients to us that are going to drive with us in the first place.
Hmm.
I mean, you're not going to be
Yeah.
able to make everyone happy no matter what. Someone may take a
Yeah.
look at your picture and be like, she's too short. I don't want
No.
her as my therapist, right?
I
Like,
don't I
or that
don't
you're a
like her
woman and they don't want you,
tattoos.
right? There's
Yeah.
something. There's always going to be something that's going to turn people away. But I think if we're being authentic with who we are, because I have that same, once I go with my massage therapy business, kind of the same thing, right? Is
Yeah.
what do I want people to know about me, and what, if they're not drawn to my content, we're probably not going to be a good fit anyway.
Yeah. I think that's such a good point, because that is definitely kind of the way that I kind of help myself continue to do this. And that is to say, the people who don't like the things that I say, or don't like the content, or don't have the capacity to um, have an open mind about new
Think, yeah,
ideas, yeah, we're probably not going to be a good fit. I mean, I'm just not going to be the therapist for them, you know, and that is actually part of my job, is really to be honest with myself and to be honest with my patient when it's not a good fit. I have an ethical obligation to say, whatever is going on with the person, this is outside of my scope, and I think you're going to find better, resources or help or whatever over here with this other practitioners. Um, but I mean, it's still hard, right? Like there is, I think for me, somebody who likes to have control. Um, if a patient is coming in before I've had a chance to know them, but they're coming in knowing stuff about me, I've kind of lost some control there. of how I want myself
You've lost
to
your
be
false sense
presented.
of control.
Right. Correct. Yeah, it's obviously a false sense of control. Um, but that dynamic changes a little bit, right? From a normal new person coming in, a new person, new people meeting each other to, the patient will come in with this false sense of who I am. And either way, whether they know me or they don't know me, they're still going to have a false sense of who I am. So I try to remind myself of that, right? Either way, it's still,
I think there's an
uh,
opportunity for gratitude in that, though, because if they have
mhm,
found you on social media and they're still coming to you, I think that's something to
yeah,
be grateful for. Is like, you know what? I have put myself out there and I'm being vulnerable. So thank you so much for trusting me,
yeah,
based off of what you
yeah,
do know about me, you know? And so I
right.
think that I've been really trying to work on
Yeah.
mindset shifting lately.
Yeah, and I have had experiences where, people will book appointments with me because they know that I have ADHD, right? And so they're like,
Yeah,
"She has ADHD. She's gonna actually listen to me. She's gonna understand what this experience is like. She's not just gonna write me off as, somebody who wants to just get a label or somebody who just wants medication or whatever number of things, bad experiences they've had in the past." So I do appreciate that part. Like I get more than anything. um the goal, I think, like you said, is to model for people what authenticity looks like. And authenticity can be oftentimes really messy because it's hard to hold all the parts of a person because we are many, many different things, and that is difficult. And so you and I share so many different parts of ourselves, I think, on this podcast. And every so often, I get the feeling of like, take it all down. I don't want anybody listening to it. And then other times, I'm like, no, this is great. I love this. I want
that's
to
why I
keep
didn't give you the
talking.
passwords.
I want, yeah, I want to keep sharing. Um, so yeah, I guess I just wanted to be authentic about sharing how that does create some anxiety for me, when it
Well,
comes
see,
to
yeah.
sharing,
So I think we had conversation early on, when we were talking about this idea about how one of your goals was to share the fact that, yeah, I am a psychologist and no, I don't have
Mhm,
everything together. Like I still have days where my, mental health is struggling. I still have days when I choose anger instead of empathy. Like
mhm.
it's just a
Yeah,
natural
absolutely.
human
Yeah.
response. And this idea, especially on social media, that you're going to go to therapy and your whole life is going to just change and you're going to be grateful for
Yeah.
everything and you're never going to have a bad day is just false advertisement. It's snake
Yeah,
oil. And
100%.
so being
Yeah.
truthful with who we are and the struggle of just being alive and being a human and all
Mhm.
of the work that goes in with that, I think you're doing a fantastic job. So
Thank you.
if
I
my vote
appreciate that.
counts, I say nailed it.
Of course it does. Yes, yes. Yeah, I so I'm kind of, I guess, back to this cohort that I'm participating in. I'm super excited about it. I think it's going to be 9 months of a lot of self-reflecting. Um, there's a concept that is really kind of the overarching concept of this cohort, which is a process called reflective function. And that means it's kind of a difficult concept. I'm still trying to wrap my mind around how to think about it. The best way I can think to describe it right now is it really is building the capacity to not only think about how you think about your own life, so thinking about thinking, but then also having the capacity to think about how the other person might be thinking and why they might be coming to the conclusions that they're coming to. And the best way to do that is to reflect through writing journal prompts, through reading, through talking to other humans. And so there's going to be a lot of like introspection over the next 9 months. And so I'm really excited to get to share some of that experience that I'm having with our
Was
listeners.
that
And
one of their latest episodes? I just listened to an episode. I don't know if it was that podcast because I have so many.
yeah,
It was literally
yeah,
about the
It was,
reflective
yeah.
thinking. Okay.
Yeah, so that episode is on the psychiatry and psychotherapy podcast with Dr. Pewter. And I don't remember the actual name of it, but I did text it to you to listen to it.
Oh, okay.
It's one of the older episodes, because that is the kind of the framework, or I guess um, the skill that we are looking to build over the next 9 months. And basically what that is the more we can think about how we think, the better we are able to connect with other people. And so yeah, I'm excited about that. I just kind of wanted to wrap that part up.
I'm going to find that episode. Everyone should definitely go listen to it. It's, well, maybe it's not for everyone. I'm like, we may not have the same amount of
it,
nerds here
it's
as
very
we are.
it's kind of academic.
It is very academic.
Yeah, yeah, but it's a very important concept, and it basically discusses how reflective functioning is the one factor that determines whether or not a therapist is going to be successful with their patients. And so you go even further, it's a factor that kind of determines if you're going to be successful in your relationships, all
Yeah.
relationships, like your marriages, your friendships, your job, just with other people. And it's a lifelong skill. Go ahead. Yep.
If you guys can see that, I don't know. Can you see it? Oh,
it looks blurry on my end. Yeah, you might just have to post a link for it on
yeah.
there.
It's reflective functioning: the key to attachment with Dr. Howard Steele.
There we go. Yep. Yeah. So
that's
a
actually
great
on the
episode,
psychiatry podcast. That was the psychiatry.
Yeah, it
podcast.
should be psychiatry and psychotherapy podcast, I think.
Oh yeah. It's psychiatrypodcast.com is the actual website.
Yeah.
Super good.
The website.
Definitely recommend.
Yeah. Yes. Checking it out.
Episode 213. Maybe Perfect. This is better. Can you guys read that?
Yep. That looks. Yep.
Okay.
There we go.
Perfect. Get it, guys. If you're bored
go
and you want a bedtime story.
that is actually something I am so excited about. Is I do a lot of academic reading and listening and just wrestling with a lot of these ideas and trying to understand them. So it's really cool to get to be in a group with 15 people who are reading the same things and listening and excited and curious about these same things. So that I'm super excited about. It was really cool to get to hear all of their perspectives. We all read the same couple articles and then kind of got to talk about it. So that was really fun. So anyway, moving on. A little bit about me. So I am from California, born and raised, and I grew up in North San Diego County. So for those of you who are familiar with California, North San Diego County is kind of up in the mountains, and I am Native American, so I grew up in the reservation in Northern California, the San Pasqual Reservation. And my grandfather was a minister, like many of the indigenous people on the reservations. They were obviously converted to Christianity early on. And unfortunately, because of that conversion to Christianity, a lot of our indigenous spiritual practices and indigenous cultural practices were lost. And so part of my goal as I aged and got more educated in my own culture, and I started to try to learn more about some of those practices that were lost, to try to reclaim some of that information. And my dissertation was on indigenous mental health and how to improve indigenous mental health. So that has been a really cool process for me. And there's a whole nother podcast we can do on deconstructing Christianity and what my relationship with Christianity looks like today. Coming from a family where my grandfather was a minister, is super interesting. But I went to college right out of high school, prior to that, my brother, who was in the same grade as I was, we were very close. We're like, 20 months apart. So my mom had us pretty quick, one right after the other. My brother tragically died in a car accident when we were juniors in high school. And so I had to make a choice at that time. My family was grieving, and in indigenous culture, we're very much a communal community, and it's very difficult to leave, especially when your family is grieving or when the community is grieving. There's a sense of obligation and connectedness that you should help move your family and your community through this grieving process. And for me, I knew that it was really important for me to get educated, and I didn't want to stay on the reservation. I wanted to have a life off of the reservation. And so I reluctantly and with a difficult amount of thinking, decided I was going to go to college. And so, I went to college at 18. I went to UC Santa Cruz, which is up in Northern California, up by San Francisco. Santa Cruz is one of the most beautiful places in the world. If you like to surf, Santa Cruz has some great surfing. I was there for 4 years and completed my bachelor's degree in psychology. And the funny thing is, what I actually wanted to do was play music. So my grandfather was a musician, and so going to church growing up, I was in church Wednesday nights for Bible study, Sunday mornings, and Sunday evenings. I was in church
The Christian, like, how many churches have you gone to that did not have a Wednesday night Bible study? I feel like that's standard practice.
I think it's standard. I think at least in the Protestant,
I feel like even
tradition.
the sports communities have realized we can't have practice on Wednesdays. Everyone's going to be in church.
Everybody's going to be
do Tuesday, Thursday. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I was in church all the time when I was a kid, Wednesday night, Sunday morning, Sunday nights. And because my grandfather was a musician, I started playing music in church. So I was, probably 10 years old, picked up whatever instrument was available, the tambourine, or whatever was there. Yeah, triangle. And then eventually, I learned to play every instrument, because these churches we went to were like very small. And so there was usually a need for some kind of musician on the worship team. So, maybe one day I'm playing the bass guitar, and the next day I have to play the drums, and the next day I have to play the piano. And that really developed my love for music pretty early on. Music became a way of managing the suffering that I was experiencing in my life. And so what I wanted to do when I went to college was get a music degree. And I told my parents that I wanted to move to Nashville. I wanted to play music. I wanted to pursue becoming, a songwriter or a studio musician. I don't even have to be famous. I just want to play music in whatever capacity that was. And my parents were like, maybe we should pick a degree that maybe you could make some money at, like I'm all for I'm all for the music. They absolutely were always supportive of me playing music. But I am grateful that they were encouraging of me choosing a career path that I could actually get like a stable job in. And so I was like, all right, well, maybe I want to do medical school. And if you want to do medical school, you got to do like chemistry and all of these hard sciences. And I was like, absolutely not. At that point, I didn't realize I had ADHD yet. And so I did know that I struggled significantly with certain topics, not because I couldn't do it. Like, I tested out of college math. So it wasn't a matter of me not being able to do these things. It was just so mind-numbingly boring to me that I was like, I will not go to school. I will not do these tests. Like, I just will not pass chemistry, because I just don't have the will to get through it. And so I was like, okay, pre-med's out. I got to take all these chemistry classes. Like, I can't do it. And then I thought about sociology. And sociology is group dynamics, right? So it's looking at groups of people and how that impacts, culture and people. And I was like, I don't really want to do that. Like, people are dumber in groups. I want to look at individual people. And so that brought me to psychology. I thought about doing philosophy for a little while, but again, my parents were like, pick something that you can make money doing. And so I was like, okay, I can't major in philosophy. I really wanted to major in philosophy and music. Those were the two things I really wanted to major in. Neither one of those was going to make me money. And psychology is really an applied philosophy. So philosophy is really just ideas about human nature, about the nature of existence, about truth. And psychology is really applying those ideas in the 3D world, in the material world. What do they look like in practice, right? People who believe these things, what are they actually doing? And so psychology was going to be a great fit because not only would I be able to maybe make some money and get a job, but I could also still continue to study philosophy and, the things that were interesting to me, because psychology is everywhere. It's everything because it's the study of humans and their behaviors and their thoughts. And so wherever there are humans, there is psychology. And so I was like, this is going to be perfect. I will be able to understand myself and maybe be able to understand my parents and my family and my culture, and maybe be able to understand why they are suffering and why we have suffered. And maybe I will be able to wield some control over that. That's obviously delusional. But it was the motivation I needed at that time to be able to get through that program. And I did minor in music. And this is really funny. So, with a minor in music, you have a certain number of credits you have to get in the music program. I did every single music class. I think I was one class away from completing that minor in music. And the class I didn't complete was a class called ear training. And for the ear training class, what you're required to do is you're required to listen to a melody, a piece of music, and you have to notate that music just by listening to it. And it requires an immense amount of practice. And guess what you don't like doing when you have ADHD? Practicing. So,
One and done.
one and done. So I was like, what? What do you mean? You just want me to? And basically, the way you get good at ear training is you have to listen to the intervals between notes. And so the way that they teach you these is you learn different songs. You'll learn the intervals in songs. So the one that, and if anybody's listening to us who did a music degree, they're immediately gonna know what this is. But my favorite one was always The Simpsons, right? So this is like a weird note because it goes da da da. So that note there is a specific interval, right? So we have like, you'll learn the Simpsons song, or you'll learn Happy Birthday, Happy Birthday, that one for. So it's like you're learning the interval between those two notes. So then you have to memorize all these things, all these different songs, and then somebody's going to
Sounds
play
like
you a
you
random.
aced this class.
No, because here's what happens. I'm about to tell you why I didn't. I'm about to tell you why I didn't ace this class. So learning the individual intervals, I was golden on. You give me a song, I'm going to be able to like nail down those two intervals. I got it. Yeah. Here's the problem. What they would do is they would play you a unique melody, something you've never heard before. And then your job is to listen to that melody and try to figure out what the intervals are between the first two notes. So the first and second, second and third, third and fourth, fourth and fifth. And that means you have to be able to not only hold the melody in your working memory, but then you also have to pull from your memorized melodies the intervals. And guess what you don't have when you have ADHD? You don't have good working memory. So I was doomed to not do well in this class, especially because I was not going to be practicing this over and over and over again. So I think I tried to take this class like 3 times. I withdrew from the class twice. And then finally, the third time, I was like, whatever, I don't need a minor in music. I'm over it. And so I just didn't do it. I was like, I'm done, you know?
That's the April I know right there.
Yeah,
Whatever.
I was like,
I'm over it. I'm not
whatever.
doing
I don't,
this. This is
you know what? I'm
stupid.
not doing it anymore. I tried it. I could say I tried it. I'm done. I don't need the paper to say I know how to play music. And so I don't know why I didn't consider that when I went to music school in Nashville, that I would again have to do music ear training. But once I graduated
Because
college,
your brain wasn't fully developed.
that's true. Yeah. So I graduated from UC Santa Cruz in 2006. And then because I wanted to major in music, I was like, all right, I got the degree that's going to get me the job. I'm going to go straight to Nashville. I'm going to move to Nashville and study music at Belmont University, which is one of the best music schools in Nashville. There's so much opportunity there to network with people in the music industry. And what I wanted to do was be a studio musician or just play music. I didn't even want to be famous. I just wanted to play the guitar. And so I auditioned to go to school there. You have to audition to go to music school. Flew out to Nashville, auditioned on the guitar. I got accepted and decided to move to Nashville once I graduated college. And I was at Belmont for 1 semester. I don't remember if I did the full second semester. Second semester, I think, was ear training. I got into that class and I said, nope, I'm not doing this. I changed my mind. I'm done with music school. I'm not doing this. And I just stayed in Nashville for a couple years, and I played a bunch of bars and coffee shops and met a bunch of people and got to play music there for a while. And that was super cool. That was a really cool time in my life, just getting to play music and meeting people in the music industry. But I met John, my husband, in my senior year of college, and John is 6 years older than I am. And so he was in the Army at the time, and he was actually already planning to go to Iraq as a contractor. And so, and at that, when I met him, he was still in the military. So he was still trying to decide, like, do I want to stay in? Do I want to get out? He'd already been in for like 10 years. And I was like, well, I'm going to Nashville. I don't know what you're doing. Like, if we're like just passing each other in life at the wrong point in time, like, then that's what it is. But like, I'm not gonna not go to Nashville because this has been my plan for my life since forever. And you either fit into that plan or you don't. And it's gonna suck if you don't, because you're pretty cool. I would like to keep hanging out with you, but also reality is what reality is, and I'm just not willing to change my life, my entire life, for you. And he was like, no, bet. Like, I also don't want to change my life for you. But I would love for us to be able to be together and have our dreams both coexist. And if we're both able to have these dreams and hold the relationship together, I think it's worth trying. And so we said, cool, let's try this. And so we got engaged, and he went to Iraq. I think the first 5 years or so of our marriage, he was overseas in Iraq and Ramadi and all kinds of different places. And I lived in Nashville for part of that while he was overseas. He came home to visit. I got pregnant before he left. And then with our first child, and then had her in Nashville. And then we bought a house out in Nashville, and we were there for a little while. And once he got done working in Iraq, he was like, I think the best job for us is going to be me staying in the contracting world and working for the military. And so that's what took us to Sierra Vista, because at that point I have a newborn baby. Like, I'm not going to be playing music. I'm not going to be, able to do the things I was doing before. And so we moved to Sierra Vista, and that was a whole different journey. And I got to meet you, which was awesome. We wouldn't have got to meet you if we didn't go to Sierra Vista. So, and we had our 3 kids. My goal was always to go back to college to be a psychologist, but because John was 6 years older than I was, um, he wanted to have kids sooner than later because he was like, I don't want to be an old dad. I want to be able to like run around with the kids and stuff. And so I was like, all right, I will have the kids, but like once we're done, I'm going back to school because I need an escape plan. I can't have you thinking I can't escape this thing, if things don't work out. And he's like, absolutely. I also want you to be able to have an escape plan. I do not want you to be here if you feel like you have to be here. And I was like, absolutely. I'm glad we're on the same page. So, I went back to school after I had my 3rd child. I think I was 35. Was I 35? 30 when I went back to school. I'm trying to
Yeah, it
remember
must
when
have
I
been
went.
30
Not
because
when
I
I
was like,
not
you were already moved to Texas when you were 35.
no, not when I had Sarah. I'm trying to remember like I think I had just I'm trying to remember when I started my doctorate and when I started my master's. I think I might have been 30 when I started my master's
Yeah,
degree.
you started your master's when you were still in Sierra Vista because I think you had just
Yeah.
completed it when you moved to Texas because you started
Yeah.
teaching.
Right, because I started teaching at the college here. So I already had my master's, and then I think I started my doctorate once we moved here, and that took me another 4 or 5 years. And then, yeah, so I got my master's in general psychology um, from Grand Canyon University. And then I started my PsyD, which is a doctorate in psychology. It's focused in clinical practice, and I got that from Southern California University, and I did all that work here in Texas. So I did my internship here in Texas, and just kind of did the whole thing, and now here we are. So got licensed and I'm still practicing, and yeah, that's I guess pretty much leads us up to today, up to kind of who I am, what what I did, how I got here. um so yeah.
So something that you said that I think is really important to kind of just hit on, right, was
Mhm.
there have been 2 moments in your school career specifically,
Mhm.
right? And they happen to be the same class, right? But it is,
Mhm.
I wanted this, but I have changed my mind. And I know we've talked a little bit
Yes.
about
Yes.
the implications of changing your mind about something, right? And the judgment
Mhm.
that comes along with that from people like, oh, well, you gave up or that you failed because you didn't, whatever. And it's like, I feel like there's
Yeah.
so much pressure to just sludge your way through life without like, I said I was going to do this, I committed to it, and now I have to see it through. Um,
Right.
versus just being honest with yourself. Like, I was very interested in this. I tried it. It turns out that's not going to be the direction for me. I've changed my mind, or I
Mhm.
found something that speaks to me more. I think that's a little more forgivable, is like during that path you found the actual thing, right? But that
Right.
doesn't always
Right.
happen for people either. Like you might just trust me. There was probably week 5 of massage therapy class. I was like,
Mhm.
I wasted so much money. I got to drop out. Like this is
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
going to be for me, right? And what does that mean
Yeah.
for me in my life?
Yeah.
Am I a failure now? Did I,
Right.
so can you just talk a little bit about the psychology behind changing your mind or perceiving people that change their mind as maybe flip floppers? I know we see
Mhm.
that a lot, like
Yeah.
specifically in politics, but just gaining more information, which is allowing us to make more like
Mhm.
logical decisions, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think some of this comes down to personality, temperaments, right? I think my temperament is very much if I don't want to do it, I'm not doing it. And I don't really care who has a problem with it. And I've been that way since I was 5. Since I was a kid. Um and that actually was a big part of I think I started deconstructing my faith the minute I could talk. Um, the minute I had thoughts of my own. I remember being, 4 or 5 years old, and my grandparents talking about hell and how, people go to hell, and I remember thinking like, but you told me God loves everybody and that God doesn't want anybody to be hurt, and that doesn't make any sense to me. Like, you wouldn't put me in the fire, would you?
Yeah,
My
why?
immediate thought is like, if you're telling me God is love, and love is something that will put you in a eternal fire. And as a kid, I don't even know what eternal is. Everything is eternal when you're a kid. You have no concept of time. So that just to me sounds like existing in a fire, right? And my grandparents would just kind of be like, well, God's ways aren't our ways, and you can ask him when you get to heaven. It was.
The amount of times I've been told, you can ask when you get to heaven. Like, we're not going to have all the
Yeah,
answers here. You're going to have to wait till you're at those
right.
golden gates, right? And it's like,
Correct. Yeah. And I think there are some people who are genuinely okay not asking questions, and I think I know. I know this.
this is the blind faith.
Y-
Yeah, you just,
yeah, there's people who don't ask a lot of questions, and they're comfortable with that. My temperament is not to be comfortable with not asking questions. I rate very, very high in openness. And because my temperament, my personality style is just very high in openness, I am always seeking new ways of understanding myself, new ways of understanding the people around me, new ways of experiencing the world. And so I think when I was going through school, there was never a sense that if I made a decision or changed my mind, that I wasn't going to be successful. Um, my success, I didn't feel like was dependent on what other people thought about what I was doing. And so I just was, I think, fortunate enough to have a self confidence that was maybe delusional because I was young. But I think I definitely want to credit my parents and my family for really always encouraging my curiosity, in the sense of, if I wanted to do something, they were like, yeah, you can do it. You can definitely do it. I mean, they kind of emboldened my delusions in terms of helping me to believe I really could do anything. You want to be a
I think
surgeon?
that's
Yeah,
why
go
you're
be a
so
surgeon.
confident today, though, is that you
Yeah.
had that support.
Yeah. Yeah. My parents were very, very much always supportive. And I have so much gratitude for that, because I think you're right. I think the more I talk to people and the more I learn about their backgrounds, the more I find that that is a key ingredient. Like, the kids who don't who aren't believed to be capable tend to grow up and believe they are not capable, and that causes them to feel like stuck, I think, in a lot of ways. I think they can end up feeling like, well, I've been successful at this. I'm already here. I already got accepted. And it felt like a big feat to already get accepted into whatever thing, program, job, whatever thing, that now it feels like a big risk to go do something else, because they already didn't think they were capable of doing the thing that they're doing, or they got accepted in. And so if I got lucky doing this thing, what are the odds I get lucky twice? You know? Um, and so the other part of that, though, so I think there's some temperament, and there's obviously some like self-confidence and self-esteem that contributes to whether or not we're comfortable changing our minds, or making a new decision, or pivoting. And then I think the other part of it is, um, there's a concept called the sunk cost. And the sunk cost is, I've already paid a whole bunch of money to do this thing, right? I've already invested a whole bunch of time, a whole bunch of energy. And so I'm not going to walk away, right? I've already put too much into this. And people, there's a cognitive dissonance that's created if you spend a whole bunch of time and money and energy, and then you leave. You're basically having to deal with the feeling that you the feeling is I didn't make the right choice, and therefore there's something wrong with me. And so you have to deal with like the shame and the guilt and that embarrassment of feeling like you're a bad decision maker, or you just wasted your time, and these are all narratives that come from, again, things people have told us throughout our lives, or whatever. But I think that sunk cost a lot of times causes people to stay in relationships they don't want to stay in, to stay in jobs they don't want to stay in, to stay in situations they don't want to be in. And it's simply because I've spent too much time and money on this thing. And if time and money is the thing that you value, then that makes sense to stay. But if you value something beyond that, usually you're going to compel yourself to change, whatever that situation is. And sometimes therapy will do that for people to help them to really nail down, is money and time your core value here? And hopefully for most people, it's not,
No.
So I think that those are some things that make it difficult for people to change their minds.
Yeah. I know we've talked before about, because we've both grown up kind of in poverty too, where you still have that mindset of like, well, now I've wasted this money because,
Right.
I paid all this money to do this and then I couldn't even finish it. Or, I invested all this time and energy into this relationship and it didn't turn out the way I thought it was going to. Right.
Right.
And so just trying to have a little bit of grace with yourself in the fact that, like, we're always changing. Like, if we're the same people that we were in high school, we have not been doing any kind of work on ourselves or reading a book or just paying attention to the world around us, right?
Yeah.
Because in high school, we even have that brain development. It's just, we should be evolving as people. We should be taking a look at our motivators. Like, so something I've been asking myself a lot lately, when I start having like a doubt or whatever, is like, how's this benefiting me? How's this thought benefiting me? What am I getting out of this thought that I have that is directly benefiting me? And in a lot of times, the benefit is it's reinforcing my negative image, my negative self-talk, my whatever, right? It's comfortability with the lies that I've been telling myself or that I was told as a child that I'm just carrying with me, right? It's just comfort.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's not really a benefit to me now, right? Inside of me, it is, because it's that comfort blanket, or it's that Band-Aid over the wound.
Yeah.
But sometimes you got to let those things air out a little while, And so,
100%.
recognizing why.
So you're doing a good job of like demonstrating that reflective function, right? Like, you're able to actually reflect and say, like, observe your own thought, like to observe it happening in the moment and be like, how is this benefiting me? Like, the reason I'm thinking it is a benefit. It's adaptive somehow.
Right. Your body is seeking rewards. That's why we want like sugar. Yeah. That's why we make all of our bad habits are because of an award that we're getting.
Right. Correct. Yeah. And it doesn't mean it's going to feel good all the time.
No.
At all. Yeah, 100%. I think the other part too with changing our minds is the uncertainty that comes with the outcome. That is a huge barrier for most people. And one of the goals of self-actualizing and of mental health, is helping people create the capacity to sit with both ambivalence, which is the feeling of this feels like the right decision and this feels like a terrible decision. So it's being able to build the capacity to hold that feeling in the moment. Yes, there's a part of me that feels like this is perfect, and there is a part of me that's like, you're going to mess up your whole life. Holding that is really difficult. It requires practice. And so a lot of people can't hold that feeling. They don't have the capacity to hold that feeling yet. But that feeling also creates a secondary feeling, which is the ground beneath you, your stability, your groundedness is now gone. You are floating in the void, so to speak. And so this sense of uncertainty can be debilitating for many people. It is so anxiety producing that many times what people do is they'll cling on to whatever idea or relationship or whatever thing is kind of they're used to being a comfort blanket. So that might be like their internal dialogue that they're a piece of shit, that you always make bad decisions, that you're, because that's how they've dealt with uncertainty in the past, is with these narratives, right? For some people it might be, I'm going to text my ex who I don't talk to anymore, and
Yeah.
I'm going to go back to this sense of comfort that I had. So noticing when there is a sense of uncertainty, what am I compelled to do in those moments? What is actually happening in those moments? Am I going back to behaviors or things that I've actually worked through? Like, that's usually a good sign that there is a sense of uncertainty. There's a discomfort with ambivalence, which is you having two different feelings at the same time. The behavior is like an indication of the emotion that you're having, and so those two things, I think, the uncertainty and the difficulty with ambivalence really makes it hard for people to change their mind on things, and so they will, let's take religion or politics for example. Somebody learned something new, okay, and they learn that new thing, and that new thing, that new information kind of rattles the foundation that they had, right? Well, if I believe this, then the house of cards starts to tumble, right? Like, it's now I'm taking away my foundation, this thing that gives me my sense of meaning, this thing that gives me my sense of self. And so, in order for me to get back to a groundedness or a sense of safety, I am going to go like extreme now in the direction, extreme politics or extreme religious, like, or extreme whatever the thing is, because this new information is so disorienting that it creates instability in their sense of groundedness. And so that is a lot of times what
You got to
drives
double
dogma.
down now.
You got to
Yeah.
double down. Yeah, I'm going to double down. Like, I can't hold the uncertainty that I might be wrong. And so now I'm going to double down and I'm going to do this even harder, right? I'm going to go like, I'm going to be the best X, Y, and Z, whatever it might be. People do this with everything, right? Like, they do it with every idea, every belief. Like, it doesn't matter what it is. Most of us struggle with being challenged in our sense of our beliefs, our sense of self, whatever it is that we're doing. And so that, of course, our decisions are very personal to us. So even if we challenge those or other people challenge those, it creates a lot of uncertainty. And so that can cause us to even double down even more and dig our heels in and stay in bad situations, bad, environments that we really don't want to be in. And so, yeah, building capacity for that uncertainty, building capacity for that kind of ambivalence is really important to be able to help people move towards being able to be comfortable changing their mind and making a new decision for themselves.
Yeah. And having a best friend that's really smart on these topics is also very helpful, because then you don't have to pay for a therapist. Just remembering when I had kind of the decision, do I leave this career with the retirement plan and, find a
Yeah.
life that's more fitting for me, or do I suffer and sell my soul for a retirement plan? Like, I got, 15 more years of this
Yeah.
intolerable workplace for the
Right.
benefit of retirement, or can I just walk away and find a life and spend the next 15 years of my life doing something enjoyable? And so I think I'm very grateful that I was able to kind of share those fears with you, and you were so good at,
Yes.
just basically being like,
Yeah.
I got you. I am retiring.
Yeah.
I'm going to have $1 million when I retire a
Yeah.
month, and I'll share it
100%.
with you. You're always going to have
Yeah.
a place to live.
I'm
Like,
literally
just,
like, I'm never I'm never gonna let you starve. Like if the worry is like that you're gonna starve, like I'll have food at my house. Like I'll
Yeah,
I'll have I'll have an extra bedroom. Like if you need a place to stay, like like there's never gonna be this isn't gonna be catastrophic, right? Like you're not your
yeah,
basic needs, that lower level pyramid, like they're gonna be met. That's not something you have to worry about. Like I think that's important too. Is like being somebody in the life of your friends who can remind them that there is a sense of safety in the relationships that they have with you. Like, I know the world feels chaotic. It's hard to make decisions in a world that feels chaotic, but hey, like there is stability here. Like I'm gonna be here. It's gonna be fine. You're gonna, I'm gonna make sure you eat and can shower and like, you're not gonna,
yeah. You can just live
you're gonna be
here.
okay. Yeah, exactly. I would love that. Yeah. I'm reminded though of do you remember what Gabriel told you? Gabriel is for the listeners, Gabriel is my teenage son, and Misty was out here for a visit when she was like making this decision. She kind of wasn't sure. She was still kind of wrestling with it. And we were talking about it. And what did Gabriel tell you? Do you remember what he told you?
I don't. I remember it was epic though.
Yeah. Yeah. So Misty, I remember what he told you. So Misty was he was out in the living room. So Misty was telling him like, yeah, I'm not sure what to do. Like, I think I'm going to leave this job. I'm going to try to do like this massage therapy and I'm just really worried about it, as a 15-year-old, like what do you think? What do you think about it, And he actually said, I think if you had the courage to leave your job, then you have the courage
Oh
to
my
build a
God.
new life.
It was okay. I do remember that. And I remember almost crying. I was like, this kid is
Yeah.
so wise beyond his. It's like that one. And then when we were asking him what kind of jobs I could get to make money, and he said stripper. I was like,
Listen, and that and that is the most important thing, right? Is that we have balance.
what? You think someone would pay me?
He's not wrong, right? It's like, I mean, OnlyFans is always an option. We don't
So
shame sex
funny. Yeah.
workers here.
Yeah. He is great. Yeah. I remember that. I do remember that. If you have the courage
Yeah,
to leave
to
this
make the
job, then
hard
you have, yeah.
decision. Yep, yep.
Yeah.
So
It
I
was
think
fantastic.
that's the important thing is like
He was probably the catalyst. I
ultimately.
think I was like, boom, done. Here's my resignation.
I think one of the other things we talked about too during that period when you were trying to make that decision was um how many times in your life have you done something new and failed? And I
Yeah.
think that's the question that like, you know, when you want to do something, you are successful at it. And I think anybody who knows you would attest to that. They'd be like, yeah, like anytime Misty tries to do anything, she's doing it like within a week, probably better than everybody else who's been doing it for a couple years or even many years, right? And
Yes.
so for
As a
me,
imposter syndrome sufferer with extreme low self-esteem, I am always like, oh, again, why am I telling this to myself? What am I getting from this thought that I am now
right.
having? Right. And it is literally just recycled shit from
Mm-hmm.
growing up, um,
Yeah.
being told school is not your thing. Yeah, you just need to get it over with and get a job where you can just
Right.
work because you're not going to be good at learning. You're not um, it's not a good fit for you, those kind of things.
Right.
Where I was definitely not encouraged to try things new.
Mm-hmm.
either reality check parents or the we're not doing it parents. So
Yeah.
it's a little bit
Yeah.
different
Yeah.
experience.
A little bit different. Yeah. So maybe on the next episode we talk about your life and your experience and your kind of how you got where you are, and then we'll have a good balance of them getting to know both of us.
Yeah, that sounds great. I'm gonna think of a.
You're gonna
You
think
know
of
how
what? A
you're
story?
okay.
A made up
Hold
story?
on.
What
No,
do you
hold
mean?
on. I swear. Okay, so people that know me already know. But I remember telling kind of just my brief history to a new therapist that I was seeing. I took a break from my old therapist because he was making me feel really bad about myself
Cared
in like
for.
a
He was making you
loving
feel.
way where I'm
He
like,
was
why
making.
are you so nice to me? Your kindness is literally making me feel so uncomfortable. I cannot be here. So I was like, I gotta go
Right.
somewhere new. But I remember like, it's just like, tell me a little bit about yourself. And I talked for
Right.
about 8 minutes, and it was on a Zoom call, and she was literally like,
Visibly
it's just
uncomfortable.
the complete motions of shock and discomfort. And like, it was not hidden. It was just like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
it's like, oh no. It's like,
Yeah. How, like, okay, so as a patient, like, do you prefer an emoting therapist or do you want a therapist to like keep it concealed? Like,
so I don't like, I prefer the emotional response because I have a tendency to cope with comedy, right? That I think we've talked about
mm-hmm.
this before, where like I told
Mm-hmm.
my male therapist a story, and he was just like,
Yeah.
how does it feel to laugh while,
Right.
discussing these kind of things? And I'm just like,
Telling this painful thing. Yeah.
literally
Yeah.
laughing so that I'm not crying, right? Or I will turn it into a joke to diminish my own experience, right?
Mm.
It is
Mm-hmm.
literally my coping strategy.
Yeah.
But I don't want to say that that's where all of my humor comes from, because I am just hilarious, right? And so thankfully, my upbringing gave me a lot of ability to practice my comedy. But
Yeah.
I kind of have a relationship with laughter
Mm-hmm.
and self-deprecation.
Mm-hmm.
And but I do, because I have turned everything kind of into a comedy. Like I joke, I have a book that I say I'm writing. I will never write. It was just really fun. It's fun. It's called Misty Licious: A Recipe for Disaster. And then the tagline is tragedy or tragedy, right? Like, we want to know what's going on here. And so I just have like the chapters mapped out, and I can tell like little short stories about all of these chapters. One is about the goat at the Family Dollar, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so I have just a bunch of little fun story
Yeah.
ideas that I will never do because I'm not a writer. I don't enjoy writing. I enjoy storytelling. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's where the energy is at. I said maybe that is my stand up, is
Yeah.
just an hour
Yeah.
of these book chapters, right? But um I have this tendency to tell these stories to make them funny so that the
Mm.
other person also doesn't have that negative reaction. Like, if I can get you
Mm-hmm.
laughing about it, which is, I think, at the heart of any stand-up comedy routine that you watch on TV, it's just like, yeah, ha ha ha, we're laughing at someone else's misfortune. But if you
Mm-hmm.
take a minute and really listen to a lot of them, you're just like, oh my God, that's terrible, right? But that's how
Yeah.
we survive a lot of that, by finding the humor in it, and that's what
Mm-hmm.
builds resilience in a lot of ways. So for me in
Absolutely.
therapy, it is a bit of a reminder to me not to diminish my experiences, um, to acknowledge that, yeah, I have suffered a lot of pain in life, and it has helped shape who I am. And it's
Mm-hmm.
okay to be sad. I don't have to make myself small, right? Which is what I kind
Mm-hmm.
of do with the comedy of it all, is just make myself
Yeah.
small, make it, make a joke out of it. But at the
Mm-hmm.
end of the day, like, there's a lot of hurt that I carried for a very long time, um,
Mm-hmm.
unintentional from a lot of the people in my life.
Mm-hmm.
But it happened, right? And so
Yeah.
it's helpful to me when I'm having that conversation to see how it's landing on the other person, because I am a people pleaser, and I tend to try to curate my delivery to the person in a way
Right.
that they will not experience harm, which is why as soon as you said, we'll talk about your story next week, I was like, oh, how can I talk about my life in a loving way so that if anyone that was involved in my life happens to listen to this, they're not going to be crushed. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
So
Right.
that was the first thought that I had.
That sounds difficult.
It's gonna be.
Again, I mean, you're having the same experience as me, right? Like, I can't manage the response that people are going to have to what I say. You
So
know, I think I could
I'm
be
fortunate that I don't
mindful.
think my family members are listening to this. But on the off
Yeah.
chance that my main
That we go
female
viral. That we go
caregiver
viral.
listened to this, that it could be hard for her to hear, right?
Yeah, I
Again,
absolutely.
understanding that is not my burden to carry, right?
Mhm.
Reality is
Yeah.
reality, and
Yeah.
she has her own therapist. She can discuss that with them.
Can speak with. Yeah,
It's not my
absolutely.
problem
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah, 100%. Well,
Protecting.
Dr. Staples is happy to guide this discussion that you have. And then
Perfect. Yeah, that'll be fun. So
if I sense that this is going into a territory that might be upsetting for you later, I will redirect with a new question.
so the good news is, my therapist, the male therapist that I worked with for a couple years, he did a
Mhm.
phenomenal job. And I think one of my biggest struggles was carrying that burden to protect
Mhm.
the people that did
Mhm.
not love me in the way that I needed to be loved, right? They loved
Mhm.
me, but it was not the love that I needed. And working through that challenge of these people loved me and
Mhm.
they were neglectful and mistreated me.
Mhm.
Both of those are true. And how do I accept that, right? And so that's something I
Right.
have absolutely worked through. I feel like I'm doing a very good job now at
Mhm.
letting people handle their own emotions and
Mhm.
being, again, how am I benefiting from this behavior? I'm
Mhm.
not. I'm not the beneficiary of that. They are. And
Right.
so
Right.
loving myself the way that I love others has been one of my main goals. And so
Mhm.
understanding when I'm repeating those kind of behaviors of like, am I just 100% protecting this other person at the expense of myself?
Mhm.
I can't really do that anymore. So
Yeah. Yeah. I think you're communicating such an important aspect of mental health, which is your work with your therapist allowed you to build the capacity to hold that ambivalence of this is my caregiver who I know loved me, who I know wanted these things for me. I also know maybe they fell short in a lot of ways, and I was hurt in a lot of ways, and I can hold both of those truths. They can both be there. You don't have to choose one or the other. So, like, that is the perfect example of building capacity to hold many truths about a situation that happened. And I like wanted to point that out because it's something that people, I think, when they think about mental health, they think that they're going to get to the other side of healing, that they go through therapy and that suddenly they're going to feel good about the things that happened to them. You're never going to feel good about it. Okay, I just want to be clear.
no,
Like, the goal is that you build the capacity to hold that these things happened to you. They were painful, but also I can still live in a happy life. I can learn how to love. I can learn how to open myself up and be vulnerable. I can, so you learn to hold it now in a way that doesn't create a life that is closed off to other people.
yeah.
And so I just love that. I'm glad that you shared
Yeah.
that.
The journey is not
Yeah.
fun or easy, by the way. I think I remember calling you where I was just like crying because you're kind of grieving the loss of the idea of the relationship and how it should have been, right?
Mhm.
Or have you ever,
Mhm.
oh, we're kind of going long, but you know what? That's okay.
We
If
can cut
you guys
this
can
probably.
just either keep
You can
listening
leave. We're having a
or
conversation here.
no, we're not cutting it off. We're going to go till this is wrapped up. Okay.
Yeah.
Have you ever left a relationship? It could be a friendship. It could be whatever. Right. And then we tend to build stories about that relationship after the fact that kind of either glorify it or
Mhm.
demonize it, right? I think it's depending on your
Mhm.
characteristic. You're gonna be like, I've forgotten all the happy memories. It was terrible, 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 terrible,
Mhm.
terrible. Or you're like,
Mhm.
I'm gonna brush all that bad stuff off and just remember all of these good times, right?
Mhm.
And so for me, I think the hardest, and I can speak about this because I know that they will not be listening, but the hardest relationship for me to kind of come to terms with was with my grandparents, because
Mhm.
they were my safe place coming up, right? In
Mhm.
my childhood, that was my escape, was to them. But I
Right.
also vocalized to them things that were happening and they did nothing to
Mhm.
intervene, right? And so,
Right.
like, as an adult thinking, how how did they allow this to happen? Because I know that they love
Mhm.
me,
Mhm.
was really hard. Like, I cried
Yeah.
a couple of days. Like, it was like 2 weeks of just like, I gotta quit going to therapy. I can't, like, this
Mhm.
is too painful having to come to terms with this.
Mhm. The
And
feeling is just it's flooding. It floods you like
yeah, because it's hard
yeah.
to have to admit out loud, these
Mhm.
people who I loved and who loved me failed me on every level. Like, they
Mhm.
did not respond. They did not intervene. They did not get law enforcement. Like, there were so many
Mhm.
opportunities for them
Mhm.
to get me out of this situation, and they didn't do it.
Right.
But I know that they
Yeah.
love me, right?
Mhm.
But they didn't love me enough to take that burden on of being my full-time caregiver, right?
Mhm.
Because it was just like,
Mhm.
we're not going to raise our grandkids. This is not our responsibility. Your,
Right.
parent needs to do
Right.
that.
Right. Right.
And
Right.
so yeah, that one was the hardest one for me.
Mhm.
Was just
How I'm sure you um again, right? It never goes away. That feeling, that disappointment, like it
no,
doesn't
can you see
really
my rash? I just
go
started getting talking about
because
it.
yeah. We build capacity to hold it. At what point though did the feelings not feel like they were flooding you when you would have them as much, where you felt like you could hold it, like you could hold that truth that these people loved me and they also failed me, and it didn't feel debilitating? How long do you think
um
it took you
I
to
think
kind
it
of
was
get
a
to that
couple
point
of
of being able
months,
to hold that?
honestly. I think I could equate
Mhm.
it to like grieving the death of a loved one. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Like the same thing with my divorce.
Mhm.
It hurt for a really long time, right? And then as time went and
Mhm.
time progressed, it wasn't as bad. There was definitely, I would say, 4 to 5 months where it was like I
Yeah.
could barely. I love my grandparents. I check on them like I call them every single day.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
during this time though in that therapy, it was hard for me to even reach out to them because I was like,
Mhm.
I'm either
'Cause
going to
you're
say
angry.
something. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
so mad because I
Mhm.
think getting to the point where you can be honest that you're just mad, like anger. You feel,
Mhm.
for me, because I'm a people pleaser,
Mhm.
it felt like if I'm angry at them, then I'm a victim of something too, right? I kind of had that mentality.
Right.
And like, I
Yeah.
don't
Oh,
want
that's a
to
super
be.
interesting insight, that anger feels like victimhood to you. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And victimhood means that I deserved it in some way,
Mm.
right? That
Mhm.
I wasn't good enough to be loved the way that I needed to be loved. And so it all just kept looping into like, this is your own
Back
fault. And you,
back to yourself. Yeah.
exactly. And then it was just
Yeah.
like that's really where the work in therapy, once I was like, if I'm angry about this or if I'm a victim of this, then it's somehow
Mhm.
still my fault. Like
Mhm.
I wasn't acting right. I um, did something that made me deserve to have this or that
Right.
happen, right? Um,
Yeah.
I wasn't lovable enough, so they didn't care about me as much, right? And so those kind of things where finally I think that was my breakthrough in therapy. See, look, oh, it's happening right now.
It's so red. So red. We need an ice pack.
So hold on, let me just ground for a minute. So
just go ahead and take a minute.
What was happening for me though is that's where the real work of the therapy started, which is where are these stories coming from?
Yeah.
Is that true? Right? Because I have just repeated that to myself because my objective has been protecting the people that I loved. And if I had to admit that they weren't capable, that meant that they were flawed in some way, and that I had to admit that this had happened to me and it wasn't my fault, which then made me the victim, right? Just like,
right.
So wrestling with that idea was really hard.
That gives you, feeling like it's your fault, gives you control over the story.
Yeah.
Right.
For sure.
And because it's way harder to acknowledge, like, no, they made this choice, right? Like, and because you don't have control over that, and so it makes sense that you would feel victimized because you were, right? Like that makes sense. And so building that capacity with your therapist, like you said, it makes sense. It would take 6 months. I think people think that they are going to go to therapy, they're going to do 2 weeks, 3 weeks of therapy, and they're going to somehow be cured. And I'm like,
you get this breakthrough and you're good. But the breakthrough is really like a breakdown. And then you have to like, you're
build
to
it
me,
back up.
Okay, so what it reminded me of, and I might have said this to you before, therapy reminds me of like going to the gym. Right? You go to the gym your first time, you do all the things, you are so sore the next day that it takes you weeks before that soreness goes away, right?
Yeah.
And as you continue to go and build up your endurance and whatever, you're like, okay, I've been doing these same 6 exercise, this routine now for however long, and I feel great. And then it's like time to switch it up, right? Now I got to do different exercises, and the whole cycle just starts over again. And that whole time though, you're building muscle, you're building endurance, you're increasing your cardio, all those benefits are happening. But it's like no pain, no gain, right? Is what they say. But really it's that soreness, it's that slow build over time, and then you feel like you're starting from the scratch again and you have to keep going. And it's hard. It's really hard. But
so I think a lot of people, when they think of therapy, they think that they're going to go into a therapist's office and that they're going to trauma dump and like they're just going to say whatever they want, and then the therapist is going to be like, yeah, that sounds really hard, and then that's going to be it. And then I think for a lot of people, they have had there's been enough of these experiences, unfortunately, of bad therapy that people equate this with therapy, but that doesn't lead to change. One of my favorite practitioners that I follow is Dr. Jonathan Shedler. And he talks a lot about how if affirming and telling people, yeah, that was really hard, yeah, fuck those people, or yeah, you're just right, they're wrong. Just validation. Like if that worked, your friends would be enough. Like
exactly.
Right? Like if that worked, you actually wouldn't be in the situation that you're in to need therapy. But that doesn't work. Like validation and affirmation all the time, always doesn't work, because what you're doing is leading to distress and dysfunction in your life. I mean, it's leading to, I can't connect with people. I don't understand people. I don't know how to communicate. I don't know, whatever it might be. And so, yes, therapy is really an excavation of your life, of things that you've tried to hide, of trying to understand. It's a way for us to turn inward and try to be honest with ourselves about the reality that we live in, about how we behave, and it takes ego strength. Like it's difficult to go, and there are people who aren't ready for therapy, right? There are many people who go into therapy and their egos are so They don't have the ego strength for it. Their egos at that point are too fragile, and so they're not going to be maybe honest in the therapy room. And if you're not honest, we definitely aren't going to get anywhere, in that regard. And so some people just aren't ready for therapy. And so that is the goal of the therapist. So my job also is to kind of try to see, like, is this person ready to do this journey with me of self-discovery, of self-excavation? Do they really want to take this on? And I can't decide that for them, obviously. But there's very clear kind of things that you kind of know, like, I might not be a good fit for you as a therapist. And maybe what you need is, something else. I might refer them in a different direction. But, people who are sent to therapy by like court order, or because their spouses are forcing them to go, or because of whatever, like, a lot of times you're not going to get anywhere. Yeah, therapy isn't going to work. And they will come out of it and say, yeah, therapy is exactly what I thought it was. It's just talking about your day or just doing whatever. And it's like, well, it's because you actually weren't participating in the process, right? So
Yeah.
good therapy, like, the therapist and the patient have to agree. Like, it's literally an agreement between me and you. Do you want to go on this? Do you want to form an alliance? Right?
Absolutely, I do.
and there has to be a shared understanding of the goal. If there is never a goal that is shared between therapist and client, then whatever we're doing is not therapy. So there always has to be a goal that is set by you and your therapist, and we're forming an alliance so we can understand what this goal looks like and what we're trying to do. And so for some people that might be, I want to be able to communicate better. I want to be able to be vulnerable with people. I want to not feel uncomfortable in my sex life. I want to not be so anxious when I'm meeting new people, whatever the goal is, right? Because that's where you're going to start the work, is trying to unpack, well, how did we get there? And that's where the work starts. But without a goal, you're just like wandering aimlessly, and not doing the work. And it's easy to not do good work that way. A goal means, oh, you're telling me this is a problem. We're going to stare right at it. And
Yeah.
that's hard. Yeah, that's
It
the hard
is.
work.
Yep.
So anyway,
All right.
I guess
That's a great place to end it, I think.
yeah, we'll end it there.
Bonus 20 minutes
All right.
you guys got today.
Bonus 20 minutes. Yeah, I thought it was great. I love this. So all right, well, I guess we'll see them next week. And yeah, let us know if there's any topics you guys want us to talk about, and we will be happy to talk about them.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Love you.
Love you.